In the game of loans, you either win or you learn. Welcome to the game of loans, where fortunes are forged and empires are built. Your hosts, lords of lending and wholesaling, are here to guide you through the realm of real estate and wealth building. Brace yourselves, cash flow is coming. Episode 3 of the game of loans. We have Dustin here. Dustin Ring.
What's going on, guys? I'm Dustin Ring, the wholesale king, and here with my other partner,
Ras the boss.
Today, we're going to be talking about tips and tricks for getting into real estate investing. Things that we have learned along the years with our gained experience that we've learned that we're going to share with you absolutely free on the game of loans. So let's get started.
So Dustin,
go ahead. Yeah.
Tell us. So you're the requisite, king of wholesaling.
Correct. And for those that don't know what wholesaling means,
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, wholesaling is basically selling paper. I'm a middleman. It's kind of like being an agent, but not really. There's no there's no red tape everywhere. There's not a bunch of contracts to sign. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm finding someone that is very motivated that wants to sell their house at a discount. And these are houses that everyone's always looking for that they can never find because they don't know how to get in touch with these people. How do those people call me, or how do I call those people? How do I find these deals? But we're finding deals that are below market value. Maybe they need some work. Maybe there's a divorce situation. There's some reason this seller needs to sell his house at a discount. We come in as a wholesaler and say, hey, I can give you X amount of dollars and close in 30 days. And this is a strategy where if you're beginning in real estate, you need to learn this shit, because this, at least in my opinion, this is what makes you become a professional. You learn how to become a professional through this. You learn all the lingo. You create your network, and that eventually molds you into becoming a true real estate investor. But what wholesaling allows me the ability to is go to these people, make them a cash offer, sign a contract with these people saying, hey, yes, I am going to buy your property for X amount of dollars. I might have $5 in the bank, but I'm signing a contract stating that I'm going to buy this property. What they don't know is that I've got another investor or partner that I work with that does have the cash, and they're ready to close on this property quickly. They want this property. We've got it locked up, and we have the ability to essentially sell, or what's called assign, that property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Bob, the cash buyer investor, and say, hey, Bob, I've got this house for $50,000. Do you want it for $60,000? Well, the price, Bob speaking, well, the house is worth $150 and it only needs $20K in rehab. There's plenty of room for the investor to make money. I'm making $10,000 just for facilitating the deal, and then your seller gets their money. That's the real quick version of what wholesaling is: selling a contract, being a middleman, and being a deal finder, going out there and finding these motivated sellers.
So you're basically arbitraging the contract,
100%.
Right? You're getting the contract, you're locking it at a low price, and then you're finding a buyer at a higher price, and you're leaving meat on the bone for the end guy.
Sure.
And you're getting the guy that wants to sell what he's doing.
You want it to be a win-win-win for everybody. You don't want to kick the seller in the nuts. Right. You don't want to give them such a low-ball offer that it's really not helping them. But then you also don't want to sell the property for such a high assignment fee and be so greedy that your buyer barely makes any profit on it. Right. You want to create rapport both ways around. You want to take care of everybody, because essentially you're getting paid to do to send a contract. I go out there, I send a contract to them, I sign a contract, and I take a few pictures. Right. And I link the deal up with the buyer, and that's all I do. Now, it took me years to learn how to perfect that, you know. But if I was getting started in real estate, and I know a lot of people watch these podcasts are completely new, they might be sitting on their hands, or they might not know how to get started. I don't have any money. Wholesaling real estate is that avenue, and if you haven't heard of it, I would highly recommend looking it up.
What's the name of your course?
The name of my course is just it's Break the Mold. So it's how to break generational curses through wholesaling. And so you can visit DustinWholesales.com. And that will, or excuse me, it's DustinRingCoaching.com. Excuse me. Sorry, I flooded my own website.
You got that right.
Yeah. DustinRingCoaching.com. There's a course on there that teaches you wholesaling. Not that I'm using this as a plug, but
I'm using it as a plug.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It looked pretty good.
But yeah, if you're wanting to learn how to get your foot in the door, because I made 30K cash. I made 30K a year at my 9 to 5. I was like, dude, I have to get out of this situation. Like you were saying in the last episode, my back was against the wall. I was firing on all cylinders. I was beast mode. I was ready to break out of this just shit situation I was in. And once I got into wholesaling, I was able to do that. Last year was my 5th year in, or really this year was my 5th. We're going on 6 years, but last year was my 4th full year into business, and we cleared 7 figures. So in just 4 years, we were able to do, and just that, this is by myself, 7 figures in 4 years. It didn't start out that way, but I was able to build a brand and build something with the wholesale. And now I'm able to buy houses, which I think everybody that watches these things, that's what they want to do. Right. They want to get into real estate investing.
Let's jump into the fundamentals behind wholesaling, because a lot of people are out there pitching it like it's something super easy to get into. You need little to no resources. But at the very onset, you got to be able to find properties. You have to be able to write a contract. Most people don't know how to write a contract.
Sure.
Once that contract's secure, you typically have to put earnest money down with the title company on that transaction. Sometimes you can negotiate it without, but oftentimes you would need to put earnest money down. And then the key thing to make your money is the disposition side is finding the buyers. So tell me where most newbies come in and fuck up or ruin it for the rest of the industry.
I would say most of the newbies that come in, and a lot of them call from here, especially in my market, and they'll send me deals. I'm going, this isn't a fucking deal, dude. Like, you're wasting this person's time. Stay out of the danger zone areas. People don't want something where you can hear gunshots every night. You want something that's going to have a good tenant. So you're wanting to go to neighborhoods that have good school systems, not high crime rates. But one of the biggest things is getting really old shit houses, not knowing the market, and they'll go out there and go, well, a house like this in Nashville would sell for $150,000. And I'm going, well, you're in Jackson, and that's a $30,000 house, and you want $30,000 for it, and there's no roof. So don't go for the lowest hanging fruit. As a new wholesaler, yes, you should learn your market. You should learn what the hood is. You should learn what the great neighborhoods is. You should learn what the high rental neighborhoods is. You should know every freaking road in your market and start in your backyard. That's another thing. So many wholesalers want to immediately go, well, they're already wholesaling here and there's too much competition, so I need to find a market where there's not a lot of competition. Newsflash, there's competition everywhere in every market now. Everybody knows wholesaling. I've got more competition in my little town than I've ever had since I've started. So it's a pretty known thing now. And so start in your backyard. Start from the ground up. Start as yourself or a brand. Create a brand, because that's the thing, man. You start to become a household name, or you start getting those direct referral leads. That's when stuff really starts flowing. You gotta have grit though at the beginning. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to ride around with cheesy magnets on your car and stuff like that. You really have to be like someone that's going to get out in their car and go actually look and find opportunity every day. Well, I'm going to sit at my computer all day and just cold call and have somebody else go take pictures. No, you need to be the one out there on the streets, knocking on the doors, making the appointments with sellers, going and looking at these houses, because that's what's going to eventually develop you into a real professional. And a seller, regardless of how stupid they are, or how, not to say sellers are stupid, but what I'm saying is no matter how motivated they are or how desperate they are, they can tell whether someone's full of shit. So you really have to develop those skills. And, it doesn't matter whether you're buying the property yourself, going to rent it or flip it, or you're going to wholesale it. You need that same amount of skill.
I think it's also important to note that in becoming a wholesaler, you don't need to be licensed like a realtor.
Right, and that's the beauty of it. Now it is becoming a little bit more regulated in some states. But there's always other ways around it, and there always will be. No matter whatever comes out, whatever roadblock they try to put on something, there's always going to be another way around it. So don't get scared where like, well, wholesaling might become illegal or this or that. If they banned wholesaling in Tennessee, I would still wholesale in Tennessee. I would just find a way around it. And, whether I have to get licensed, whether I have to double close, which double closing, for people that don't know, is basically you buy the house and your buyer is at the closing waiting to buy it immediately from you. The closing costs are a little bit higher, but there's always going to be a way around. And if I can't afford to double close, say it's a $300,000 house, I'm not trying to spend $300,000 cash on a house.
Right.
I'm going to get transactional funding. They might charge me a few points. Whoop-de-doo. If I'm making 20 grand on the deal, I'm going to, do some transactional funding so I can double close. There's so many ways around what, if those regulations do come, but I'm not worried about it. They've been talking about it for the whole 6 years I've been doing it. Nothing's ever happened. So
I got to tell you, before it was called wholesaling, we called it contract flippers.
Gotcha.
Right? And this is like back in the 90s.
Bird dogging.
And these guys, it's been going on forever. I think what ended up happening when I got into the game, people were flipping contracts for maybe $2,500 or $5,000.
Right.
And now, as we know, we have to start limiting motherfuckers because we'll be like, you can't go 15% past whatever the sales price is, right?
Sure.
Just because some of these guys, they're just trying to clip $60, $70, $80, $100,000, right? And I think just like in any business, just even like our business, you're going to get some bad apples, right?
Sure.
Where just you're going to get unscrupulous people, you're going to get bad people that give
wholesaling a bad name,
or private money lending. When people hear we're private money lenders, or you guys are scumbags and you charge points. Oh, motherfucker! The risk is high risk, high reward, right?
Sure.
And trust me, even with what we do, I don't think we charge enough points with the risk that we take.
Right. Yeah, 100%. No, you don't get the return for how much money you give out is not, in my opinion.
It's
so
not,
I'm always happy to pay whatever 2, 3, 4 points, whatever it is.
I'm really even charge that, and it's like I got into an argument with one of our top people that borrows money from us because she's like, well, Kiabi's giving this to me at 10.5 at one point. Meanwhile, we're at like 10.99 and a point and a half, right? I told her, I said, then wait for fucking Kiabi to close your deal in 45 days, fucking go through that and this and that, where we're going to close your deals in 7 days. And, I just think a lot of people don't see the value in certain things that we do, and especially wholesaling. And a lot of people, look, you have a black eye, as a wholesaler, because a lot of people aren't.
Sure.
Like you.
I'm very disliked in my market. There's people I hear all the time that have never met me. I've never met them, and they'll go, well, I talked to them and they said they didn't like you. And I'm going, well, what do you mean you don't like me? You've never met me. But it's this, there are a lot of wholesalers that have ruined it, ruined the name of wholesaling. So do I say, hey, I'm a wholesaler proudly, like in a room full of realtors? No, not really. I'm a real estate investor.
But you should.
Which I am.
Yeah.
But I'm my main 9 to 5 source of income to fund my fix and flips, to fund my rentals, to fund my day payments is wholesale.
Listen, I got to be honest with you. The thing is, like, everybody has a talent that they have, right? Not everyone could do everything. And we see it even on our side, right? Like, we can't possibly get all the deals ourselves. There are mortgage brokers that bring us deals that we fund for the mortgage brokers, right? And I think, like, if you're a successful builder or if you're a successful fix and flipper, you don't even have the time to go source all these fucking deals, right?
Sure, 100%.
So you're basically an expert at sourcing deals.
Especially in this market where there's a lack of inventory through the MLS, like buying retail.
Yeah.
So the only supply of new inventory to our investors is wholesalers.
Yep.
And the black eye comment about wholesalers, I think that's bullshit. And I think there's a few bad apples out there that are predatory, or they just don't close and they just write contracts and give wholesalers a bad name because they're the guys, blasting 5,000 text messages to the borrower a month, sending emails, not doing the work of actually introducing them, getting to know the client,
and
building
get
that
screwed
trust.
over. They might move out of their house and go, well, I'm going to close on this property. This guy's buying it. And then all of a sudden they go rogue or ghost. They don't pay any earnest money, and then all of a sudden this person's screwed. So it's just, there's some shady people out there.
And our job as a lender is to do our fiduciary duty to both our investors that provide us capital and also the borrowers and real estate investors that bring us deals. And we set a control mechanism in place on the loans that we're doing. We won't finance more than 15% of the first leg of the contract. And that's to prevent equity stripping, where these wholesalers, they'll find a buyer for it and they might be taking a 100K spread on that contract. And at the end of the day, our real estate investor might be able to still make a profit, but the likelihood of them, making a reasonable profit and them wanting to stay in the project is a lot lower, because that wholesaler took all the equity out of that margin, for the potential flip. But the wholesalers that we built our business around are wholesalers that started out wholesaling, but are now in a position where they can retain the prime properties that they're sourcing direct. They're not buying daisy chain, and daisy chain means you're buying from multiple sailors. So Dustin will wholesale it to Steve. Steve tacks on 3. Ras adds 3, sends it over to Manuel for another 10. By the end of the day, you got 5 people getting paid like a total of $25,000 on a contract.
So silly.
And the end guy can't get the information from the first guy.
And he don't know who the first contract holder is.
Exactly. And so it's a mess. So we try to deal with just A to B, and then close. We try to limit how much they can finance, and, we're very, very stubborn with, the appraisal and valuation review, because most of these people that are buying properties from wholesalers are buying them sight unseen off of a set of photos and can't go conduct a proper inspection. So there's a lot more risk.
You got to build trust with those people too. So my main buyers trust me because we've done so many deals together. I can shoot them pictures and go, here's a list A to B of what it's going to need. It's going to need carpet. It's going to need paint. HVAC is out. Roof is gone. It's got a hole in the drywall here that was, leaked from a leaky bathtub that probably needs a new seal on it. You got to do this. You're probably going to need 30 to 35 in it. Here's your numbers. Here's the ARV. Here's the purchase price. Here's my assignment fee. Complete transparency. And when you have these big mega buyers that can trust you just off the information you sell, you don't have to shop it out on all these websites. And I mean, I get blasted with so many crappy deals on my email all the time, golden property or, diamond in the rough property in the 38301 area, cash flow and
30% of ARV.
You click on it and it's a tear down or something like that. But you find those people that you can trust. Then you can walk into houses as a wholesaler comfortably, because you can go, and you can make your offer comfortably. You don't have to be a bullshit artist. You can go in there and go, well, I know so-and-so buyer is going to buy this because if I can get it for this price, I know he's going to buy it for this price. And so it just helps when I would say if you're starting out new as a wholesaler or learning it, try to find you some buyers that you can build a true good relationship with. Yes, when you start off, all your buyers are going to want to walk through the properties, but once you find those guys that have walked through 3 or 4 or 5 and go, okay, Dustin, I trust your judgment, and you get to that point to where you can just send photos, it becomes so easy. And it's just a cash machine. All you got to do is just find the properties.
Yeah. I always encourage my borrowers to link up with wholesalers like Dustin, because he's direct to the seller. He can manage the inspection requirements if somebody needs to go back in there. You got a trusted source delivering you clean photo sets, not hiding mold, not hiding major issues like asbestos.
And we're not hiring a guy to go take pictures. I'm going out there to take pictures.
And you want them to be successful, because their success is your success.
Exactly.
You never want to burn your liquidity. And that's what a lot of people do. They get short-sighted. Like, I can make $50,000 off of Steve. But guess what? Steve's probably going to try and sue you afterwards, and he's never going to buy anything. He's going to tell everybody he knows that you're a piece of shit. And guess what? You just ruined your business. And your reputation is all the collateral that you have in the wholesale business.
100%. And that goes back to building trust with your buyers. Sure, I could squeeze out another $5 or $10 grand out of every deal with some of my good guys, but I want them to win. I want them to have $40 and $50 and $60,000 paydays on their fix and flips, because the more success they have, the more they're going to buy from me. If they 100%. Start getting some shitty properties, they're going to start looking at Dustin and going, well, man, he was doing really good at first, but now he's been sending me some real stinkers.
Steve, do you remember those guys in Miami that were wholesaling to each other and taking out all the equity, and how many banks that they burned?
Did they go to jail for that?
Look, and then what was happening was, this was at the height of the real estate market too, like right before the fucking rates shot up, right? Mm-hmm. And So, and then we come to us and say, well, the other fucking lender is doing it. How come you guys aren't? And I got to give him credit, where he put his foot down. He said, fucking go to the other lender. I'm not going to do it. And we stuck our ground and we didn't do it.
They had over 250 properties that they sold to themselves. And so typically in this space, you're putting 10, 15% down on a project. Okay. What they would do is they would wholesale it to themselves to cover the down payment and their closing costs. And then they would basically put that money up and they would get it back at closing. So they were getting 100% financing. They were effectively running a Ponzi scheme.
Right.
Because it got to the point where there wasn't enough margin in the properties that they were doing this through. And they were just clipping fees, providing liquidity. And the guy put his wife on there as a PG. And they ended up doing 250 loans. I think Chiavi got hit with like 80 of them. Lima One got hit with like 30 or 40. Like it was serious exposure. It was close to probably $100 million in real estate. They're buying houses in like terrible markets like Ohio for like 30 grand, selling it to themselves where they could get a BPO for like 75 and making that 45K spread, paying their down payment and never doing the reno. They would make the payments, and then once the music stopped, the Ponzi scheme was over and all the banks were stuck holding the bag. And at least to my knowledge, there's been no criminal cases filed against these people.
That's crazy.
They got away. The wife filed bankruptcy. All the lenders had to take back the properties. We're talking tens of millions of dollars lost. And that's why I'm very prudent in my underwriting. And while I want to do business, I want to do good business.
Sure.
And when I see people doing shady shit like that, my red flag goes up, and I just walk the other way. I got to stand firm. I'm here for the long term, not the short term.
One thing I'll tell you in our underwriting, I'm pretty fucking bullish all the time because I'm just optimist. But one thing I credit Ross with is, he's sensible, and sometimes I get I get crazy and I want to push, but I credit him because he's my other side, and
you gotta have your yin and yang, man.
He puts the brakes on.
If I say no, I give you a valid reason, and I give you the opportunity to argue. And if you can convince me otherwise, I've been swayed the other direction.
Yeah, 100%.
But my first inclination is let's be conservative and reasonable here. And then, especially if it's not somebody we've done business with in the past, if it's a repeat relationship, I'll give a little bit more flexibility because we've got a track record with that person. But if it's a first-time person coming in and dangling this, and they're like, look at this 24-karat chocolate bar right here, and it's really chocolate wrap shit. I mean, gold wrap shit. I'm not going to take a bite out of it. Right. So
no, he's right. And and there have been points where we need the business, but even when we need the business, we don't take the bad business.
Yeah, one bad loan can end you. At the end of the day. And like I said, we're here for the long, not for the short term. It's easy when you're in that position if you're a broker or potentially a wholesaler because your risk isn't as much as it is if you put your own money into a deal. Sure. You might have some reputational risk, but how much is someone going to go smear your name, on one deal? If you do it a lot, you'll get a bad reputation, but you can get away with one or two here and not impact your business. But in our business, we write the wrong loan. It could be the difference of, the company, being in a seriously bad position. I've seen other lenders make multi-million-dollar lending mistakes, and it's crippled them or put them out of business.
Really the only risk with wholesale, you were saying the risk is way lower, and it 100% is, besides your reputation, is just your buyers really backing out of contracts or not being able to sell a contract. Right. Most wholesalers that are new or that just suck don't give a shit if they back out of a contract. Most of them have no intention on closing it. They're just glad someone said yes. But I've had some situations where I had one buyer, he locked up 3 of my properties, and I had never sold him a single property. And he was going to buy them, and it turns out we get to day 30. I'm like, are you ready to close? Ready to close? He's being very spotty. I'm like, red flags are going. And then he finally says, yes, I can close, but my bank did the loan wrong. I'm going to need another 30 days. So I had to pull those contracts because, and I paid my earnest money. A lot of wholesalers won't pay earnest money. My contract even states if I back out, I don't have to pay the earnest money. It's written up pretty silly like to protect me. But I'm like, my reputation's everything. If my contract says earnest money on there, I'm going to at least try to lighten the blow with a $500 bill. So I really try not to back out of my contracts. But yeah, after that buyer backed out, I mean, he immediately got blacklisted. Like, you can't work with people like that, because if that happens multiple times, all it takes is one bad Google review. And, you know, as a wholesaler, your reputation is everything. Especially when you're putting yourself out there as a brand. You don't want the whole town talking and going, well, that's the guy that says he's going to buy houses, but he really doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves in the lending business is our competition advertises shit they can't do all the time. And it's like, phone rings, you know, to Steve's point earlier, like, hey, I've got an offer here. The rate's lower, the points are lower, the leverage is higher. I was like, but do they execute? And are they relationship based? And when there's an issue, can you call one of the principals to jump in and solve that issue for you? Like, we're not the cheapest out there. We're not the highest leverage, but we're going to be the ones that are the constant, that are here to stay, that offer good service and understand the importance of a relationship. You know, we get people advertising interest rates in the fours. I'm like, where the you're going to get a 4% rate in this market, or 100% financing.
Right.
And I get it. You want the phones to ring, but as a seasoned real estate investor, someone markets you 100% financing. You get on the phone and you find out at the end of the day, you're going to pay 15% down because you don't meet some special category for financing, or they're going to charge you like 24% interest for your money. Like, they just wasted your time. You already don't have enough time in the day to get what you need to get done. And to waste your time going out and filling out a new lender and trusting them and going through that process, that's a lot of human capital that you have to put forth to do that. And that's why we're a big proponent of, you know, client retention, you know, working with our existing clients, helping them grow their business while we're out there actively marketing, trying to build new business. We're doing that through hiring loan officers and account executives that already have rapport with their, you know, clients, and that could utilize our resources, our capital, and offer them a better experience. And so that organic growth and growing through reputation and relationships has been, you know, a key to our success. And we're going to continue to stay, you know, pat and move forward with in that direction.
And you know, everyone knows. I tell everybody, everyone's like, look, I want to get into real estate. You know, what should I do? How should I get in? Right? And I tell everyone, if I wasn't in the lending business, I would go into wholesaling. I think that's the.
It's like elementary school of the investing chart.
Yeah, if you will. But that's the that's the foundation.
You gotta learn the foundation first.
And you know, I love what you do, and
I appreciate that.
You know,
well, I finally graduated. I was in elementary school a little too long, but I finally was like, I got to get to middle school and high school. I started, you know, because I think a lot of people think, well, I want this passive income, and they think they're going to buy a bunch of rentals and then like be rich.
Yeah.
But you know, you have 10 rentals making you $5,000 a month, and an air conditioner goes out, and there's all your money.
100%.
First rental's vacant.
Right.
That's not, you know, and the irresponsible fucking, you know, these guys that are out there and they're the fucking gurus, just don't tell people that.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell everyone. You know,
they've got probably 3 other businesses making them fast money, so that if 100%. Shit like that happens, they can take care of it.
So what ends up happening is that they're telling people, don't even fucking buy a house for yourself. It doesn't make sense. Rent and go right into fucking buying an investment property. Right. And I tell people, why don't you be your own fucking landlord first and see the problems that come with homeownership? You know,
learn it.
You know, and you're your own tenant. First, learn on yourself. Than having some motherfucker that's renting your place and just on your ass. This is broken. I'm not going to pay you rent this month. Yeah. This is fucking broken. I'm not going to pay you rent this month. And you're going to have to come up with that fucking payment.
Yeah, when your toilet's clogged and at the middle of the night and you got to pay a plumber $250 to go out.
Right. Fuck that, man. I had, after my first 10, I said, I had to get property management. I was like, this is just too stressful. I am not answering why Margaret can't make her, you know, $400 payment again for the second month in a row. So I just said screw it and got rid of all those. Because that's just more problems. That's the byproduct of being a landlord. And anyways,
yeah, you're right. And then that's the thing. The thing is to figure out, well, do I want that you know, large, you know the DSCR, the debt service, the, you know, coverage should be, you know, low and to be able to, you know, or higher, or to be able to make a bigger spread just because it's in a shitty neighborhood. Everyone's looking at that, not fucking realizing, no, man, you buy that house in that fucking shitty neighborhood and maybe your you know, the returns are higher, but you're gonna pay that out of your ass because in those neighborhoods usually, you know, they're not fucking paying your rent on time.
Right.
Or even if they're not paying it at all.
Or they live there 2 months and leave all their shit there, so you got to go pay $500 to go get it cleaned out.
Right. Well, and I'm talking, here is different because you could evict them pretty fast. But I'm talking like in the fucking blue states where I still own
squatters.
You get these fucks that move in. Then everything that happens, hot water is not working. Fuck you, I'm not paying for 6 months, and and people just don't realize that. And I think these gurus, even the famous ones, are pushing them into these multifamily fucking deals. That it's just horrible. It's they're putting them, they're death trapping them,
right?
And putting them in a worse position. And again, obviously, we're advocates of real estate investing, but prudent real estate investing, right?
In the right markets.
Right, in the right markets. But how many times do we even get people that are first-time buyers and come to us? They're like, "Can you do a first-time buyer? Can you lend?" We go, "Yeah." You're gonna have to put more down. And then you look at the project, and it's like, $400,000 purchase price with $500,000 in rehab. You're like, motherfucker, you haven't even done. Yeah. Why don't you start?
Put lipstick on a pig before you try to assemble 100% a Ferrari from scratch.
And they're like, well, why can't you do that? Well, because you can't. You haven't fucking even done one.
Right.
You're gonna get into a major project. I'm gonna, increase the square footage because the realtor or some asshole's fucking telling them that's what they're gonna have to do. And that's what happens, right? And not realizing, because they're listening to these assholes telling them, this is what they should do. But realistically, like he said, and we have a mutual friend, I don't know if that lived here, that did his first one, came to us for money, and I said no. And he went, got money, and I'll tell you after this who it was, got money from another place and lost his fucking shirt. Yeah. This fucking guy got killed. And I had breakfast with him, and he's like, thank you, you were so smart. You guys were so smart. I should have listened to you. I shouldn't have gotten into this project because it was a heavy construction fucking deal. You know who made all the money in that deal?
The construction company.
The fucking construction company. Made the entire spread because he didn't know the cost of shit. He didn't know how much anything fucking cost, right? He knew nothing. And contrary to what we always say is, hey, like Ross says, put lipstick on a fucking pig first. Don't look at, I want to make $150,000 killing on my first one. Fuck you. Fucking get out of the first one, not losing your shirt. You just fucking won.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, partner with somebody who's experienced.
100%.
Take less of the pie, but use that as like tuition and learn how to do it.
So most of my flips are lipsticks on a pigs. I'm not trying to get into redesigning houses, taking down walls. I'm doing roofs, HVACs, flooring, paint, maybe some countertops, maybe some cabinets.
And that's you.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going any further than that. And I just got one just last week that is going to take more than what I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And the first thing I did was call my biggest and best partner. I said, hey, you want to partner on one? There's a $100K spread on this one.
Yeah.
So
because the time
he's going to bring his crew in and do everything. And, that's...
Because by the time, it's going to take your time away from what you do best.
It's going to stress me out.
It's going to stress you the fuck out.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, and people don't realize. And then these gurus are going out there and they're trying to convince motherfuckers that have real jobs. The guys, he's working 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Oh, this is what you should do and do that. What are you fucking telling these people? Yeah. Tell them, look, if your first investment, you're not gonna have fucking time. You have a family, you have a real job, right? Give them the fucking downfalls first. Yeah. What could happen? Don't get into a big project. Don't look at, and the biggest thing always is greed, right? Because the first guy that gets in, he's looking at that $150,000, $100,000.
They want to get paper rich, They don't understand the work that it takes to actually be successful and all the things that could go wrong. So many things could go wrong when you're flipping properties.
And they do go wrong.
Because you start peeling back walls in the hevier rehab, you realize, I need new plumbing. Oh, my electrical's not grounded.
And you can't do all of that stuff.
There's mold.
Yeah. You're not going to go there on the weekend and just go, well, I got to work on the flip house again. I mean, that's just not realistic. I mean, I know a lot of people who go, well, I'll do the flips myself, and it takes them 7 months. Right. And then I get calls almost at least once a week of people, just like you've said, that have gotten way in over their head.
Right.
And then they're in the middle of a rehab where they just gutted the house, and now they're fucked.
Right.
And they're going, well, I need to sell, but I at least need to make my money back. And I'm going, dude, you're going to lose money on this regardless. Yeah. So and most of the time, once they're done doing their stuff, it isn't even appetizing looking
Right.
anymore. You're like,
Right.
you done taking out the drywall and stuff. So who wants to mess with
No
this?
one wants it. Mid-construction,
right.
it's the worst, right?
You don't want it.
And even when we always tell people that they're trying to get in the game, what do we say? Go take on a partner.
Yep.
It's as if you're telling them, go get fucking AIDS. You know, like, go get disease. Go get fucking herpes. You're like, oh, why would I do that if I want... Fuck you, you stupid dumb motherfucker. Just fucking take the guy so you can learn. It's like getting into any trait, and this is what pisses me off, is they don't want to take the time to fucking learn.
Right.
So it's like, go get gonorrhea. No, I'm telling you, go get a partner so you don't fucking... He's laughing. What's the truth? Am I wrong?
They want that instant victory.
They want the instant victory, and they don't know. It's
going to suck getting there.
No, it's not. And this is what you're telling people, right? That's what you're telling people, and that's how they take it. They take it like it's as if you're telling them something bad or they're insufficient. Meanwhile, you're not.
You gotta get a lock on that door.
Yeah.
Before we jump too far into like real estate investing tips, I wanted to circle back on something that I want to spend a little bit more time on. So tenant screening and finding the right tenants. Are you working with like government, programs like Section 8, or are you primarily focusing on private tenant screenings? What's the main drivers for success from at least your experience? And I know Steve has managed a lot of rental properties too, so I want to hear from you afterwards.
Well, I haven't managed many myself. Like I said, my first 10 were driving me crazy. I didn't do any Section 8. It was all just one-on-one, signing leases, stuff like that, me vetting them myself. That's why I had to get property management involved. I think I have 2 duplexes that are Section 8 right now, and the rest of them are just regular tenants. But I'm already so busy with my business, and I just couldn't deal with it. I get stressed out easy when it comes to people like yelling at me or saying, where is this or that? That's one reason why I had to get property management. I'm happy to pay that 10% or whatever it is per door to not have to hear from shit. If something needs fixing, I get an email. Okay, sounds good. Send me the bill, and that's it. And so that's where I leave it.
But there's a pitfall also with getting a manager, right? I mean, let's just be honest. It's like realtors. 90% of real estate management companies suck.
Yeah, these guys are pretty good.
And they try this. You got lucky.
Yeah, but
right?
Eventually I'm going to train her to do it all, so
Right.
I can get rid of them.
Because what ends up happening is, they're in with the fucking plumbers. Yeah. So when the plumber is charging $250, your fucking fee is $500.
Yeah.
They're in with the electrician when
it's all marked up. They're a fee service business, and nobody's going to care about your real estate portfolio more than you.
Right.
So my most successful real estate investors have all brought their property management in-house. Because if you have all the trades to do the repairs and you have somebody that you trust that's feeding you the right information, you're going to be able to minimize your costs. But you have to achieve a certain scale for that to make sense to have a full-time person on staff.
I'm
or
just
a team
not there
on
yet.
You're going to be there, though.
I think eventually when I do get there,
it will
definitely be in-house for sure. Because I've already been thinking about switching. I bought these storage units, and I was like, I'm not letting property management eat that shit up.
Well, let Steve talk to you about how they collected rent back in the 90s, with his dad's rental properties in New York.
I don't know if we could talk about
that.
Right,
let's just, you don't have to name any names or
so,
something.
But one thing I want to talk about is like this allure of Section 8 that you said, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that when you're bringing Section 8 people into the house, you're inviting fucking problems.
I agree.
Right? And there's a fucking reason those people are Section 8. Yeah. And then again, you have these fucking gurus that base their whole thing on Section 8 housing. Meanwhile, they're not talking about good luck with your fucking property and what happens to your property when you do rent it out.
You also have a government entity that, if there's any issues that the tenant can run to, that's going to shove it right back down your throat and demand that it gets fixed yesterday.
And they're right up your ass. And that's what ends up happening. And these are problem tenants. And when you were talking about screening, I could tell you the best form of screening that we had was that we would make them give us 2 sound referrals from 2 previous landlords. And we would call every single one. It wasn't like, just put it on there. I mean, we would tell them, we're calling your fucking landlord. And then we would call the landlord. And then if we would hear, fuck that motherfucker, that guy, did this and did that, we just wouldn't get into it.
How'd you vet they were actually the landlord?
Well, remember, we're in Queens or Brooklyn. I mean, we knew a lot of the people. You know, if we would either drive there. I mean, back then they couldn't really lie.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like big institutional guys. It was guys, you know, someone that, you know, was renting like from a brownstone or something like that. We'd either go stop by or call the guy.
Sure.
And, you know, but then we would also search to make sure that this is a person that, you know, that actually owned the thing. But we got scammed. You know, people would be like, oh, this is like, you know, a management company. And yeah, so referrals was the most important thing. It was like a form of credit check, right? And then, you know, when credit checks came into it, we would check everyone's credit. And I promise you, every motherfucking time, bro, that we took someone because we felt bad for them, but that had banged up fucking credit, it was a problem.
Didn't work out.
It was just a problem. I would say 90% of the times.
Yeah.
You know, and there is a big correlation with that. So now, what ends up happening is, you know, most of our properties were in lower income places, right? Just because that's what we, you know, my father first got here, and we thought like that was the thing. It was because the margins were higher. But I got to be honest, you know, speaking to my dad even now, it was like if we would have just concentrated on buying less properties in better neighborhoods, we just would have been way ahead.
Right.
I'm that guy. My average tenant has a household income of like $280,000.
That's amazing.
You know, I deal with higher end stuff, and while you would think that the margins on that are not as good, I make a lot more money on the higher end rental properties that I have in the markets that I selected them in versus the lower end ones that I had, where anything that needed to be fixed, a water heater or needing a new washer and dryer or having to make a major repair, completely wipes your cash flow out for the year. And what these real estate gurus are out here selling you, they're like, go on my website, find a house for $70,000.
Right.
That house will rent with a Section 8 voucher for $1,400. Little do you know, the guy bought that house for 10 grand. Not the guy who's doing the Section 8 play, but the person who's flipping that put probably 20,000 into it, covered up all the underlying mistakes. It doesn't have, you know, replaced, you know, plumbing, doesn't have new electrical, doesn't have a new roof on it, doesn't have a new HVAC. Foundation might be messed up. There might be asbestos or mold behind there. It's a ticking time bomb that's going to bankrupt you at any point in time. And so while I think there's a sweet spot with, you know, the age of the house and the market that it's in, you know, when I'm buying rental properties, I won't touch anything built before 1990 unless it's being fully gut remodeled. Yeah. And so I try to stay in, you know, warmer weather states, newer, you know, inventory, and at a price point where I'm going after like middle class, not lower middle class guys, people that are making six figures that have perfect credit. And I'll sacrifice, you know, a few percentage points of returns to not have to deal with these people at all. Like my tenants don't call me. The money's in my account on the first of every month. You know, I might hear from them once every 6 months on something that needs to be done, but I've got, you know, routine pool maintenance. I've got landscaping. I pay for all that, so I never have to worry about any deferred maintenance. And then I'm doing a routine inspection twice a year, just doing a quick walkthrough. And it's more of an opportunity for me to get FaceTime with my tenants. And a lot of my tenants I actually do business with. Like one that rents my house in Scottsdale, he works for a property management company, and I provide his company. He gives me access to real estate investors that own rental properties and earns a commission on the loans that I get through financing those rental properties. So you got higher net worth people who are more successful. They may be your tenants, but there's also an opportunity for you to potentially network and do some business with these people.
So yeah, I want to just tell, go on the story for you on Section 8. So we had a building in Brownsville. I don't know if anyone, Brownsville, Brooklyn, is fucking makes Compton look like Beverly Hills. Yeah. Right? That's where Mike Tyson is from. So it was a Section 8 building, and it was a time in New York City where you had to convert, like actually renovate all the buildings and scrape off all the lead paint, because there was a lead paint danger where kids would be eating the paint chips and shit like that, or things like that. And then you would get a demand from the insurance companies saying that if you didn't change, convert, it will drop you, right? So we go on this whole mission, and this is a Section 8 fucking building. Go on the whole mission. We convert, we scrape the paint off, we make sure. We're fucking meticulous. And we repaint the whole thing. 6 months later, we got a massive lawsuit. Massive. That could have bankrupted my dad. That a 3-year-old, poor kid, had ingested lead paint from the building, and that now is dealing with all these issues, physical issues. For a fucking year and a half, our life was like turned upside down because of this lawsuit. Because now the insurance company was like, we're not covering this. So, when you have back then, like $12 million fucking lawsuit because it's a kid, which destroyed my father. Through means, and some of the means we had, we go and we find the boyfriend of this fucking, woman that had the child a year and a half in. And we basically find him, and we find out that the mother had saved the fucking paint chips and had fed it to the child on purpose. Okay? That testimony fucking saved our lives. How we got the testimony, that's a different story. But that we got the testimony, that we got the testimony was a life and death fucking situation. So when I say that, go out there and these idiots are pushing Section 8, those are the fucking type of people that you're going to get into those in those homes.
Well, there's also a tip and trick for you guys on the real estate side. Single purpose entities, protect yourself from risk by having a property per LLC. So if you do get sued, it's only the assets in that LLC and not everything that you own. But also understand trust law and hold everything in a trust so that they don't pierce through and access you personally.
And that's the thing. And then we're piercing, remember we're in New York.
Yeah.
And they're looking at my
don't
father.
Do business in New York.
Well, that's the thing. And they're looking at my dad, licking their chops, and the state was going to allow them pierce the corporate veil. Right? Yeah. And there was no trust behind that. And that was it. But so, word to the wise, Section 8, that's the type of fucking people you're getting. Yeah. You're going to get people that are willing to poison their fucking child for a payday. And those are the things that people don't tell you. Those are the things that it's Section 8, that's what you should do. Like you said, buy that house, fucking house falls apart. You're sitting there looking at each other like, what are we supposed to do? Those
gurus aren't buying Section 8 properties anymore. They're living off of your course payments.
Yeah, of course. And, that's it. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, if they're smart, they sold their Section 8 portfolio to some hedge fund and they don't own any of it anymore. They're making a couple $100,000 a month off your course subscriptions. Now, like I said, like the courses, there's levels to it. There's just complete BS scam ones out there that I see that are getting pushed on people, and there's little to no success stories. But there are some good ones out here, and we're committed to putting out strong content, for our audience that's going to help them actually find success in real estate. There wouldn't be a reason why we wouldn't guarantee it if that wasn't our intent. And so a lot of these guys are just out here get rich quick type stuff.
100%.
Yeah, I don't want to name names because it's going to cause some issues, but you guys know who they are.
And here's the difference. The thing is, you are independently successful. You don't need your course. Obviously, you want your course to succeed for multiple reasons, right? Even financially, but that's not your motivation. And it's not like you're living off the course money. Which makes a big difference, right? And eventually, we're thinking about putting out a course.
Hopefully, one day it'll be a nice, stream of income.
And it will be, But again, it's not. You don't need to bullshit people in order to survive.
No,
you're doing fantastic by yourself. And the same thing for us. I think we're going to eventually put a course out, right? More because. How many times a fucking day do you get asked, how do I get into the lending game?
100%. Yeah. I'm not
all the time.
Same question, but
so many people, Like,
but it's always, a lot of them are just like, how can I learn it overnight? And I want students who are willing to commit the time and effort because I didn't step into this role overnight and learn everything, but I'm going to teach you everything that I know and try to condense it into the least amount of curriculum possible for you to understand and be successful. And that's why I resonate with Dustin's courses, because he's trying to change, generational, situations where, coming from nothing, I came from nothing. My family was on government assistance. They didn't have $1 to pay for anything, as I grew up. I was working from the age of 5, I was putting in 20 hours a week, by the age of 10, working overnight, working on the weekends, like crazy stuff that people can't even fathom in today's environment. But being able to build a successful career with no resources, I want to be able to share that, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there in the world who feel like they can't break through, they can't make that leap forward. That opportunity is only reserved for people with a silver spoon in their mouth, but that's not the case. And I want to share that adversity that I went through, personally and professionally, while also, providing content that will help people understand and digest what we do, how we do it, and how to be successful. And if I can't do that, I'm not going to offer the course. And so a lot of these people just want to make money and, leave the person that bought the course holding the bag. And those are those serial course buyers that have tried an Amazon store. They've tried, wholesaling. They've tried drop shipping. Yeah. You name it. They paid for everything, and they're still sitting there paying for things because they can't.
NFTs.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, everything. There's a course for everything. Yeah. I was one that bought one of the drop shipping courses. I've bought multiple courses until I found my way into real estate, and I didn't buy any courses in real estate. It was grit and grind, and I'm going to learn this shit one way or another. Finding people, asking questions, going to local meetings, reading books, and then just trial and error, going out there and doing it.
Who do you think the biggest bullshitter is in the course space right now?
Oh, I don't want to say.
Do it. We got to make a couple of enemies.
I got the trouble.
You got to get the comment section going.
I got the trouble.
All right. I'm going to get it out of you next
next episode.
I'm going to ask you in 5 minutes, and you're going to say
Probably. This is it. This was episode 3. Thank you for staying with us. Hit the link below. Do whatever you want. Follow, share, do everything. See you guys later. You've been listening to The Game of Loans, where real estate battles are fought and won. Make sure to fortify your defenses by subscribing. Cash flow is coming, and we'll be back next time to help you claim your throne. The war of wealth continues.